as the ministry begins to unfold its outreach program, we thought that we should start with the media so that we could not only share with you, but also receive your comments and give you material that you could use as you develop your stories later on. And also, of course, from the feedback that we receive from you, you would be able to help us to even improve our presentations. So I will be very short in saying that since the discovery made in 2015, we realized a dream that we had long as Guyanese believed in and had dreamt, and that is that Guyana possessed some quantity of oil. We found ourselves just off the coast from Trinidad and Tobago. We were next door to Venezuela, and we always wondered how it was that Guyana had nothing. And then there was this layperson's theory that because our coastline is lower than that of Venezuela, certainly the contour suggested that there had to be some drainage of fuels down this way. May not be as far-fetched as you think it is. But alas, indeed, in May of 2015, we were told that there was a discovery. It was described as significant. That terminology was later upgraded to suggest that the quantity of oil discovered in the Liza well was between 800 million to 1.4 billion barrels of oil or petroleum products, which include gas. The company, Exxon, is here this morning to share with you. We are still in the process of developing that well for production, and they will say something about what that entails. At the level of the ministry, we've been working over time, in fact, on full drive to prepare by building capacities, sending people out for training, boosting capacities at GGMC, having a legislative review done of everything, and an upgrading of our legislation where necessary, and the fashioning of entirely new legislation. So we are just in the process of completing a total overhaul of our Petroleum Act, which is a 1986 act, and the regulations that accompany it. We have completed a new a new Petroleum Commission bill. That is that we are going to create a new regulatory agency for oil and gas. It is felt that GGMC has had a historical focus on alluvial and hard rock mining, and we need to reorient our minds towards petroleum, which is a completely different form of mining. And so the idea is that we would move in tandem with the rest of the world and have a separate regulatory agency. So the legislation for that is ready and hopefully will be in Parliament this month. It has already been shared extensively with stakeholders, including the opposition, companies, and the Oil and Gas Association, etc. We do have a draft sovereign wealth fund bill that is already in existence. It came, in fact, I had given a commitment for the end of December. It came, in fact, on the 22nd of December into the country. Our drafting is done by the Commonwealth Secretariat. And we did make, in a sense, landed in Guyana the deadline, but we were unable to get it into Parliament in time. That bill is now with the Minister of Finance, because essentially it is a financial matter, and he will bring it forth when he's ready. We have regulations developed as well for health, safety, and environmental issues, and we have also crafted what is known as a policy for what is known as local content. How do we get Guyanese engaged, involved, trained, and inserted into the industry? So a lot has been happening, and so we welcome you this morning.
Sitting on the northeast shoulder of South America is the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. Meaning land of many waters, Guyana is the southernmost English-speaking state of the Caribbean community. It is one of the world's most pristine natural habitats and has one of the highest levels of biodiversity. But the Guyanese population of 800,000 also has riches that, until now, have remained hidden, offshore. To understand Guyana's present-day opportunity, we need to travel back through the mists of time to over 250 million years ago, when our world looked very different. The supercontinent of Pangaea was being pulled apart into the landmasses of North America, South America, Eurasia, and Africa. A part of the new ocean that was created is the Guyana Basin. And it is here that the ground was laid for today's exploration success. The Berbice Submarine Canyon, as big as the famous Grand Canyon, provided a highway for sediments flowing into the deeper ocean. Thousands of cubic kilometers of sand were deposited in the Guyana Basin. Some of these sands were destined to become the host rock of the modern-day Liza field. The reservoir sands were then covered by more than 3,000 meters of sealing muds. Slowly, over millions of years, oil, created by the cooking of marine organic matter, migrated into the porous sandstone. Then, in the 21st century, 3D seismic illuminated its existence. Exploration was then intensified to further understand the potential of the Guyana Basin. With its partners, Exxon Mobil undertook its largest ever proprietary 3D seismic survey. The Liza 1 exploration well discovered high-quality oil trapped in the pores of the sandstone. A year later, a second well, Liza 2, helped to confirm the size of the Liza discovery, estimated to be between 800 million and 1.4 billion barrels of oil equivalent. The oil-bearing sands are buried some 3,600 meters under the seabed, in a water depth of approximately 1,700 meters. The Liza field lies around 200 kilometers from Georgetown in the Stabroek Block. The initial phase of the field development plan calls for 2 drill centers linked back to a floating production, storage, and offloading vessel, or FPSO. Around 17 wells will be drilled into the reservoirs. About half of these are production wells, taking the precious hydrocarbons up to the surface. The other half are water and gas injection wells. As the reservoir is depleted, the pressure drops. Water and gas injection helps to maintain pressure and maximize oil recovery. The technology used here will set an industry record for deepwater gas injection. Umbilical lines provide real-time control of the subsea installation from the surface and deliver fluids to encourage the flow of hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbons travel from the trees through manifolds and into flow lines before risers take the fluids from the seabed up to the FPSO. The FPSO is a floating industrial complex, continually separating water and gas from the oil, and is capable of storing 1.6 million barrels. Tankers visit to export Guyana's first oil to market. By the middle of 2020, the Liza field plans will have become a reality. The development will keep delivering its valuable commodity over a further 2 decades, providing a new source of prosperity for the people of Guyana.
you can see the drill ship that we're currently using, the Stena Carron in the upper right, and the block that you'd seen in the video down below. The couple of points I want to make on this is that when we actually entered into drilling the well back in 2014, when we notified the government that we would go forward with the well, we actually lost our partner back then, which was another major oil company, and they had perceived the prospect to be too risky back in the day. And so our current partners, Hess and Exxon, we were able to show them a data room amongst others, and they were the two companies that wanted to engage in the prospect. It was about a 1 in 5 chance of success when we actually drilled it back in 2015. 2015 was Liza 1, but it wasn't until Liza 2 was drilled in 2016 that we actually had enough confidence in the accumulation at that point to say that, yes, now we have something we can go forward with the development. So it's only been about 8 months since Liza 2 was completed, the test was completed, and we are confidently going forward with our development. We drilled a Liza 3 also, and so we have 3 wells in the Liza field, and that's given us some additional confidence. But it's a large field, and I would anticipate even additional appraisal drilling as we look forward. Skipjack was drilled in the middle of those, and it showed exactly how risky these plays are. Skipjack looked very much like Liza, and that well had no hydrocarbons in it whatsoever. So it just shows that we're in a risky play type, and we continue to learn as we drill, and as we go forward, hopefully we'll be smarter in the choices that we make for drilling targets. We drilled Payara, and that has come out positively. We have 95 feet of pay in Payara, and we're still evaluating the size of Payara, but it's a little distance away from Liza. So the point is today that we have about 1 billion barrels. We say 0.8 to 1.4. There's still a range. As we drill more wells, that range should close. And we're going forward with the development. Next slide, please. So this just is a slide to give you a sense. We saw a lot of this in the video. The FPSOs in the upper right-hand side, we're at 190 kilometers offshore. We're in deep water. The production facility will produce 100,000 barrels a day, and we'll drill 17 wells. But for perspective, the lower right-hand corner here shows the actual dimensions of the development. The kind of X that you see in the bottom part of that map are actually the mooring lines that keep that FPSO in place offshore, and then all the colored lines are the flow lines that are on the bottom of the seafloor. Those blocks are 1 kilometer blocks, and the inset is to scale for the city of Georgetown. So it gives you a sense of how big Georgetown is relative to this development offshore. We've applied for production license, and we've submitted our development plans. We've also awarded a contract to SBM, a very large company that specializes in tanker and FPSO construction. Next slide, please. This is basically what you saw in the video. I won't spend any time in it, but the notion here is that there's 17 wells out here. The oil's produced into manifolds, comes up to the FPSOs, separated oil, water, and gas. Oil's stored in the tanker, and then the water and the gas are re-injected in the reservoir. So next one, please. This is a timeline of where we are today and how we get to first oil in 2020. The FPSO and the SURF, which is all the stuff that's on the bottom, the manifolds, the wellheads, and the umbilicals. You can see the timelines for those. The front-end engineering of that occurs up through the middle of this year. We come to a financial investment decision middle of the year, and then we go forward with spending money at even an accelerated rate for the manufacturing, construction, and procurement of the materials required for the SURF and the FPSO. Also, the development drilling, we're in the process of establishing, you hear about the Stena Carron, and that's been plugging along drilling exploration wells, but we'll have an extended contract in the future that'll be required for the drilling of the 17 production wells that are out there in the future. And just so you get an idea of the magnitude of the costs here, this is in US dollars, the different pieces, the boat, all the stuff that goes on the bottom, the SURF, the actual drilling total up to about $5 billion US dollars for the total phase 1 project. Just quickly, the way we install a lot of the stuff on the seafloor, the manifolds and the wellhead, the manifolds and the umbilicals, jumpers, all that stuff that's on the seafloor is with some pretty specialized equipment. There's not a lot of these kinds of vessels around the world. They'll be floated in. Those materials will be constructed in a couple of sites in other parts of the world specializing in this kind of construction, and that'll be brought in offshore. Probably not much of that will actually be seen in Georgetown, but a lot of the supply of those equipment and materials will be coming from Georgetown, food, fuel, and other materials. After all that stuff is put on the seafloor, we then put in the mooring lines for the FPSO, float the FPSO out there, and then we hook it all up. And the bottom right shows just a schematic of the FPSO. Next one, please. And then after it's all hooked up, we're producing into the tanker, or into the FPSO. It stores up to 1.6 million barrels. When that gets full enough to offload, we pull up a conventional tanker to it. So just a regular tanker that are found all around the world. And then we offload the oil to the tanker, and the tanker goes off to market. And it's held in place by a couple of tugs there. I think the key things here are that facility out there and all that equipment is really high tech, highly instrumented, and is run basically with 60 to 80 people out on that ship, and that's 2 shifts of people out there. So it's not a people-intensive operation for the actual oil production and operations. That's it for that one. The next one is how do you support that? Well, you support it with a shore base, and that tanker needs various supplies. It needs to have crew changes. It needs food, fuel, and just other equipment and materials. And so we do that with kind of the same kinds of support we're using right now for the drill ships. We have helicopter base. We're currently running out of Ogle, and then we'll have supply vessels, which are shown kind of in the upper right there, that'll go back and forth out to the ship for crew changes and for materials and supplies. The lower left-hand picture shows the actual FPSO and potentially 2 drilling ships. Still to be determined whether we go with a 1-ship or 2-ship solution for drilling the wells out there. But most of that support will come from Georgetown. There are some specialty items that don't have a lot of or frequent use that could potentially be supplied from Trinidad. And so above the supply vessels, the helicopters and the tugs, once we're into just a steady state kind of production mode, that's maybe 2 supply vessels, a helicopter or 2, and a few tugs. That's the steady state production mode of this operation. So what are we doing from the local content perspective? A philosophy statement. We've stated this in a number of settings here. It's really our mission to maximize local content in anywhere we operate around the world, and we have many good examples of that. But to give you a sense of what we've done to date, we spent about $800 million total on the project. That's from inception. That's from the start of the Stabroek Block. And about 150 million US of that has gone to Guyanese companies. Currently, we're about 680. That obviously fluctuates a bit, but it's between 650 and 700 people that will say that they are working on our project, and roughly half of those folks are Guyanese. And we've utilized 177 different Guyanese companies. So you ask, well, I don't know, do I know somebody that's working on this? And the kinds of things that are currently being utilized. The shore-based fuel, food, supplies, security, transportation, hotel, house leases, aviation, waste management, and a number now of other companies that are coming into Guyana and registering here as Guyanese entities. So that's what we're currently doing. That's what the picture looks like, at least end of 2016. When we look forward, the next slide will show you what the Liza plan actually looks like going forward. So that's the same chart that you see in the upper part of the page. That the bar chart or the graph in the bottom is actually the number of people it takes to do all the things that it takes to bring oil on in 2020. And it's broken up in blue and red. The blue is the onshore component, the red is the offshore component. So there's quite a few people that, I don't know if you can read the numbers on there, but you can see where it breaks over to 1,000, right where the peak starts coming up in 2019. when we look at the different pieces of what is going to happen with Liza 1, the first is the installation of facilities. That's more or less that upper part of the peak above this section right in here. So that's less than a year of time, but that's the time when we're bringing in those specialized ships. They're putting down the flow lines, they're putting in the manifolds and installing a lot of that surf equipment. Also the anchor lines for the FPSO. So they come in and they leave, and it's quite a few people, as many as 600. It'll be on many vessels that are working on all the different pieces of that activity offshore. The actual development drilling is that longer bar. That's kind of this piece in here, and this is representing 2 drill ships. So if it's 1 drill ship, that'll actually be a shorter bar extended for a longer period of time. And that's about 250 to 500 workers, and that's some of the contracts that I had mentioned that'll be coming up soon that we'll be letting, and we'll have a huge emphasis there on local training and content and bringing folks out on those drilling vessels. The actual production operations, it's about 200 people, and so that's really this piece out here, and that's what it takes to run the facility, to run the phase 1 operation. And as we get into the longer-term steady state, that's roughly the number of folks that'll be working on the project. We'll certainly have some expats down to help in the training, but that'll be dominantly a Guyanese workforce. And then we'll have our local affiliate, as we do now. Our local affiliate is pretty small at the moment. We're about 20 people with 5 expats, but that'll be in the hundreds of people. And once again, we'll have people coming down for training, mentoring, and handover, but the goal there would be to have an 80 to 90% local workforce in the affiliate. So what are we doing right now to get ready for this? We performed an initial capacity assessment. That's a look at all the goods and services that will be required for these activities, at least at a high level, to take a look at what's currently in Guyana, what needs to be beefed up in Guyana, what's in Trinidad, which is a lot of where we're getting some of these items, and have the expertise, what can be brought over to Guyana. We've created the Facebook page so that people can get a lot more information as to what we're doing, and the interactive website and supplier portal. We've started to register local companies. I don't know how many we have now. Any idea? 36 currently, but we expect that number to grow dramatically as people explore the Facebook page and the website. And then we're going to be entering into a enterprise development center. That'll be more of a storefront setting where we'll have training. You'll have the ability, people who want to do business will have the ability to interface with us, talk to real people, get an idea of what's coming up as far as potential tenders, et cetera. As mentioned, begun to register the local companies. We're now in the process of trying to get notification of the tenders that are upcoming, and you'll start to see that on the contractor portal. That's evolving, and we should be better positioned in the coming weeks to have a lot of that material on there. Yet you have to realize, and I think a lot of people here think ExxonMobil hires everybody, but a lot of these specialized things that we've been talking about, even the drilling, are done by subcontractors. So the big contracts, FPSO with SBM, whoever does all the surf stuff, whoever does the drilling contract, those are the big numbers of people out there, but they are subcontractors to us. And so we work closely with our contractors to work on the local content issues, but it isn't ExxonMobil hiring, because we don't oversee the hiring of all those individuals. They are done through our subcontractors and through the contracts they hold with us. What we're doing is taking a look at Guyana and the total range of needs and of capacity that's out there and what's needed in the future, and we're really in the process of building the plan forward for working with our contractors, the institutions, and the government to figure out where the best utilization of funds and energy are for capacity building. So to be positioned here, you notice by the numbers there aren't huge numbers here, and you'll see in some places where it says, well, we need hundreds of petroleum engineers. Well, to run 17 wells, you don't need hundreds of petroleum engineers. You need a couple. So we have to make sure that the areas that do require a broader range of personnel and greater numbers of personnel, that we're beefing up here to ensure that we're set to improve the local content pieces.